Good evening. Nice to see you. Welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters, writers, editors, journalists, people who are putting stuff out so you can get a sense of what's going on in the Bronx. And also in our second segment, we generally do things like arts and culture. And there is an absolutely wonderful arts, and not only arts, actually, a whole street fair coming to Riverdale, and we're going to talk about that in our second segment. But in our first segment, let's get right to it. He's always on our show, and I love that. It is David Brand. He covers housing for Gothamist. Nice to see you, Dave.
Thanks for having me back, Gary.
Dave, you wrote a story, and you know that it raised my eyebrows because it was the headline was "New Bronx Program Links Local Landlords with Homeless New Yorkers." And I think that's interesting because one of the things that I have heard very, very recently is that people are saying, you know what, we need to build housing, but we really need to deal with the empty apartments and other spaces that we can put people in already without, taking 3 years to build a building. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about what this is about. This is a Bronx Works program, isn't it?
Right. So Bronx Works is partnering with JP Morgan Chase, which is funding this program. So they're helping landlords, especially smaller property owners throughout the Bronx, rent out their apartments to people leaving homeless shelters with housing vouchers. This is from the city's City FEPS housing voucher program. So, people have apartments that they want to rent out. People with housing vouchers have a guaranteed income stream here, a guaranteed rental stream paid for by the city. So not only is it good for people leaving shelter, it's good business, I think, for landlords. And so this is just trying to get through some of the bureaucratic obstacles that can make the process take long, that can make approvals a little more complicated for owners. And so it's supposed to streamline that stuff.
How impactful, I guess, is the word. How impactful do you think this will be? Listen, because a number that you had in your article said it aims to assist 100 households. We've got 65,000 homeless people. So I don't want to say for those 100 households that's significant. It's a start. Do you think it's a concept that can fly, that can move to really do something in the city?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not a panacea. There's like 16,000 people in shelters right now with housing vouchers who are trying to find a place. This is going to target 100 households. So it's not going to solve the homelessness crisis, but it's going to work for some number of people. And I think I could see it helping people have more confidence in this program, and people who, aren't renting to people with housing vouchers could inspire them to do that more and to show see, this could happen, and it's a good source of income, and you're also doing something good for the city overall.
Your article reported that JP Morgan Chase put up almost $500 million, $450,000. What does that money go toward? I mean, are they going to build out things? I mean, I thought that was interesting. After reading it, I said, well, that's interesting. But what are they going to pay for, and how does that help this process?
Yeah, it's almost like, well, why not put that right into housing or something? But I guess it's building out the work, hiring staff and counselors to make this work, workshops to educate people, I guess different types of training materials and stuff. And then I think that's over a few years. So I don't think that's one lump sum of 450 grand, but I think it's going to pay salaries for people to take on this work.
One of the things you wrote was that they find small repairs could be between $3,000 and $5,000. What do you think about this? Now, you've covered this extensively, and I'm sure it's always in the back of your mind. This whole thing with the city of Yes, and the mayor says, okay, if you've got a home and you may have a basement apartment, rather than hiding it, we're going to help you build that out. Is this the kind of thing that, if it expands, if it hangs on, it could be part of that whole, part of City of Yes?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, if the city were to make it easier for people to bring their basement apartments, like up to code, making them safe and legal and affordable to do that, then that's an option for housing people with vouchers or for people in need of affordable housing for sure.
Yeah, we got to do something. And to me, again, the article that you wrote that we just talked about is innovative, and that I like that, and it's also using existing facilities rather than the whole specter of trying to get people to build.
Always
Just
hard.
just to show you how clever I am, this interfaces perfectly with another article you wrote, which is New York's basement legalization plan inexplicably inexplicably explicitly misses parts of the city that need it most. Um, let's talk about that plan. That was what I was referring to as part of the city of yes. But why does it miss its mark? And where do we need stuff that we're not going to get through this program?
I was going to say that's quite the segue, Gary. So this is
Well, that's from my radio disc jockey days when I move one record to the other. Go ahead.
so this is it's related to City of Yes, separate but kind of would complement, I guess, some of these proposals. So this is state law that would make it possible for New York City to set its own rules around legalizing basement apartments. And right now, what supporters of legalizing basement apartments say is that there's a lot of laws at the state level that make that almost impossible for homeowners to do, or just like extremely expensive, that don't really have anything to do with the safety of the apartments. And so right now there are tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of basement apartments where people are living, but those apartments are illegal. So there's really
Right.
no incentive for landlords to or homeowners to come forward and try to bring them up to code, because they could just get shut down and then they can get fined. So right now they're in the shadows. So supporters of making them legal say we need to bring them out of the shadows. We need clear guidelines for how to make them safe, clear regulations, clear enforcement here at the city level. So the state allowed that, but only in a handful of sections of the city, and they're excluding the parts of the city where there are the most basement apartments.
Sorry for laughing. It's not funny. So I'm just thinking of our home borough, the Bronx. I mean, let's say up in Williamsbridge and Wakefield, there are many apartments of that nature. I could think of a number of other areas. Soundview has a number of apartments like that. I mean, there are a lot of neighborhoods like it. I don't know. It does not compute. I mean, in other words, if you're going to do it, why not do it in those neighborhoods? Do we know why, or we got to get it up, bring some state legislators on and find the answer to that question?
I think that would help to
That would.
bring a but I think a lot of state legislators wanted to carve out the districts that they represent. There's a lot
Ah,
of opposition to this, because one, people could say it's not safe. You're never going to make these apartments safe. That's one argument. Another is, what does this do for the infrastructure if we are doubling the amount of people living in a
right.
neighborhood? But in reality, people are already living in these places, and they're just a lot of them are dangerous, and we saw
So,
that when people died.
well, so here's the question, and it is a reasonable question through this whole idea of the basement apartments. So, if they're living in the apartments, they're illegal for a reason, and the reason is because they're not safe. You may not have enough facility to really do. I mean, there's 100 things that are involved. But if you just kind of wipe it clean and make them all legal apartments, well, then you've just made an illegal, unsafe situation legal. So in order to make them legal, you really need enough inspectors, and goodness knows we've been through this dozens of times. We don't have enough housing inspectors in the city,
Yeah.
and so where are we going? Where do you see an end to this? A meeting between the mayor and governor to solve it, or who knows?
Well, I guess we'll see what happens in these 15 community districts. Like you mentioned, there is going to be need to be more like regulatory, I don't know, like inspectors you mentioned, and more regulations, ways to enforce that. So let's see if they could do it in the community districts where they're allowing this, including the 4 in the Bronx that they've approved this new program for, and then it'll be up to the city to set those rules. And then yeah, we'll see what happens next. If the mayor is promoting the City of Yes plan that would allow for homeowners to add an additional unit in many cases to their properties, and that could include basement apartments in some situations. So yeah, I guess we're going to see how this goes, and if they can enforce it, and if people are actually going to be making them safer.
I didn't realize there were 4 neighborhoods in the Bronx, and I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you remember which 4 they are?
Right now, no.
Oh, okay. That's fair. I didn't
Because
remember either.
Northeast Bronx. So I
Northeast.
think,
Well, this is
yeah,
why I said
yeah,
Wakefield and
yeah.
Williamsbridge, et cetera. Listen, one other thing. We got about 2 minutes. Um, Another story you wrote, New York rents are rising 7 times faster than wages. That is a very serious thing. We could go back to the rent is too damn high. Let's see, average wages in New York City increased about 1.2% last year, but median rents surged 8.6% last year. That is a very difficult thing. So, I guess it's 2 different economies you got to deal with. You got to deal with minimum wage and wages, and then of course you got to deal with the price of housing. I mean, I don't know how to resolve it. Okay, Dave, resolve it, please.
I thought you weren't going to put me on the spot. You said,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I mean, it's pretty grim. Wages going up, that's a good thing. Rents going up even more, that's not a good thing. And so, that was a report from the apartment listings platform Street Easy. The economists there say the answer to that is to just build more housing, make more supply, and that could drive down rents.
The rents.
I think we'll see the impact of the state's new good cause eviction protections, which set thresholds for how much landlords can raise rents without a justification for going higher.
Let's be honest. I mean, I've interviewed a number of elected officials about it. That's not the end all and be all, and they didn't believe they got everything they wanted on good cause eviction. And I think it left out, I don't have the number in front of me, many apartments.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of carve outs there. So, and I think, more of what I've been reporting on is all the gray areas that tenants are still questioning if they're covered or not, and how exactly they would challenge an increase. And so, some number of people are going to be protected, but I think it's going to be confusing.
Yeah, not as widespread as people would like. One last point on this whole thing of rents, which I thought was fascinating, because of course we think New York is the most expensive and have the largest discrepancy in wages and income. But you said it's worse elsewhere, specifically in Florida.
Yeah, parts of Florida where rents have gone up like almost double in some cities. You see Tampa is 50% increase in just the past 5 years. Meanwhile, wages have risen at a much lower rate than here in New York City. So Florida, everyone thinks New Yorkers are moving to Florida. The grass is always greener, I think, because the rents are surging there and the incomes are lower.
Bring your wallet if you're going to go. Listen, David, we'll probably solve the housing problem in the next couple of weeks, so we won't need you anymore. Yeah. Listen, David Brand, who does housing for Gothamist, I don't know what we'd do without you. We wouldn't know anything. We do appreciate your time always. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then, yes, we're going to go to a block party in Riverdale. It's coming up this weekend. That is going to be a lot of fun. My wife is going to be there too. Don't go away.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. And this is a fun part of the show where we get to promote some really cool stuff. And there's a block party coming to Riverdale, but it involves a lot of things. So let me welcome the board chair of the Riverdale Main Streets Alliance. It is Damian Mcshane. Nice to see you again, Damian.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. And my buddy Eric Kollin from the Riverdale Art Fest. Nice to have you, Eric.
Hello.
Damian, this is a big thing, and it got bigger this year, right? The Riverdale Block Party. What has it been? Where is it at? And what are we doing?
Yeah, so this is our third annual Riverdale Block Party. It's sponsored by an organization that you mentioned I'm the chairperson of right now, the Riverdale Main Streets Alliance. And we're a community-based organization that brings together really concerned members of the community. There's a lot of local institutions in North Riverdale in particular, as well as the merchants. And this event is designed to really combine all three of those things into one event. It's an outlet for families. It's along our main street, so we're hoping to drum up business for all of our merchants along the Riverdale Avenue corridor. And it also allows some of our institutions to come out and meet and greet with the community they serve. So
a fun day, a fun Sunday in May. So we showed the flyer. So it's Sunday from 1 to 7, which means it's the whole afternoon.
Yeah.
And just to be very clear, it's on Riverdale Avenue in North Riverdale, the North Riverdale part of Riverdale Avenue. And Damian, you mentioned to me just before we went on the air that there's more this year, aside from the Riverdale Art Fest that's going to be involved, but there's other activities and things going on. Why don't you mention what some of those are?
Sure. So it just happened to work out and we were able to coordinate it. The Riverdale Y is holding their run and fun day. So starting at 7:30 in the morning, there's a 5K or a 1K around the Riverdale area. And then after that, you're more than welcome. And we encourage you to come out to Riverdale Avenue, right in front of the Skyview Shopping Center at about 259th Street, to have a good time with merchants, with face painters and clowns. We're also going to have a singer at 6 o'clock, Max Borak, for those of you who are familiar with his soothing tunes. But also we partnered with KRVC, which is a larger merchant association in the area. They'll be running a shuttle bus from South Riverdale. So the folks that don't live in Riverdale, KRVC is providing a shuttle bus. They're actually holding an event earlier in the day. So you can, again, walk around, visit some of the local businesses there, and then head on up to North Riverdale starting at 1 for the street fair.
I love this. I think it's great. And to be honest with you, two things. Number one, every Bronx neighborhood needs something like this. Many do, many have things like this. But the second part of it is bringing more people, getting more organizations involved, helps our businesses, helps our artists, which I'm about to talk about with Eric. And this is how you build community, despite all the issues that we talk about that are difficult, from housing to crime and everything else. This is how we solve them, I think, by bringing communities together. Damian, you and your colleagues, salute. That's the way I feel about it. Eric, my buddy, the Riverdale Art Fest was actually supposed to be, a couple of weeks ago.
Well, actually,
what happened?
It was supposed to be a couple of months ago.
A couple of months ago, okay.
So just to brief it, Shira Silverman, who runs the Riverdale Y Market, and myself teamed up, got a grant from the Bronx Arts Council to have this arts festival at the Sunday market. So
this is the Riverdale Sunday Market, which, as you know,
Sunday market.
Right. As you know, I attend every Sunday. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, and I bump into you often. So it sounds like a great idea, and we got artists together. It was a great way to bring people, creatives, and show them off. Like, this is a community event. So we tried it in the fall, and it was a really rainy day, and we had to cancel. And we tried it last week. It was a really nasty day.
Oh my goodness!
We had to postpone, but luckily, and I thank the Main Street Alliance, really saved us. And I think it's going to work out better to actually. They invited us to join them in their block party.
In their block party.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, Eric, I think that, as I just mentioned before, bringing people together, having all this, I'm sure Damian's going to be thrilled because all the artists and all the people, and this is yet another part of life. I got to show a couple of things. Eric, we can see it a little bit behind you. You're a crazy artist. You are wild. You create some of the, so I know Anderson's got a couple of pictures. Let's just roll something from Eric. What the heck is this?
Well, this started out, I found a really cool picture of an airplane. And then I just was sketching and I had this idea of a cowboy on top of the airplane. And then the cowboy ended up with these things. And then the airplane ended up with a face fighting back. So it's really about sort of power and resistance, power struggles. And I love doing iconography. Like
we'll show. Let's show one more of yours. But I have to say, you say, I got an airplane and then it ended up. It doesn't just end up. You do it. It's not like it came from the sky. It's like, well, I don't know. I put it out here and it ended up. No, it didn't end up. You painted it. Do you use watercolor? You do use a pencil?
It's I use pencil for the sketches, but it's acrylic. Purely acrylic. All my work looks like watercolor. It's an illusion. It's a magic trick. It's acrylic paints.
All right, let's show another one. Here we go.
The Matador and the Bull.
The Matador and the Bull.
Similar theme. When I started this, it was just a picture of a matador. Then I added the cape and the matador, the bull, the horn started to fight back. So, and the reason I like the theme here is that there's such great pageantry with the bullfight. And at the same time, it's so savage. And I love the contradiction of that.
Well, again, I do appreciate that you didn't say, well, and it just happened. I mean,
it did, but okay, we'll see.
Okay, something spoke through you, and I really appreciate it. So these are all, what you'll be displaying, and these are on sale, obviously, and those kinds of things.
Yes. So what's happening with the Art Fest part of this is we'll have tents set up, and we'll also have artists on tables nearby, and in the tents will be really great Riverdale artists that everybody really should see and get to talk to. And we'll also have a presentation tent where they'll be doing workshops and lectures and stuff.
Wow, how wonderful. I don't want to run out of time. And if I want a place to sleep tonight, I really need to show Susie D Designs. So I know Anderson has a photo. There's my wife, Suzanne, paints these individual boxes that are just absolutely beautiful. And she will be there displaying her artwork. Please stop by and at minimum say hello or appreciate her artwork. And because this is live on the air, I was allowed to actually show a box or two. Look how nice. Of course, the virtual green screen, but look how nice. And everyone is hand painted and everyone is different. Some of them, like this one, has sparkles and everything else. So there you go. And one more picture I want to show, and then we're going to get back to Damian to just wrap this up and figure it out. The picture that's behind me is actually a painting, and the painting is done by our good friend Dan. This is the original painting that I use for the background of this show. It's Orloff Avenue, and it is by our good friend Daniel Halbin. Damian, is Daniel going to be there, or would you know, Eric? Is Daniel going to be there?
He has another appointment that day, and he really regrets because he was going to be sketching at the festival.
And he's been very, very, very active. Damian, I'm sure even seeing this artwork inspires you. This makes you say, "Wow, this broadens what we're doing in our community."
Yeah, I think Eric kind of hit the nail on the head when he was talking about his own work, how it evolves over time. And this is an event that has evolved over the last several years. And even this year, again, our partnerships grew over the last 3 to 6 months as we were able to discuss and coordinate things. And we were super excited to have the Arts Fest. I apologize that you got rained out, but I think it was a boon.
Well, you didn't do it.
No, you didn't do it. And I think it worked out for the best. We were so excited to be part of the Main Street Alliance Block Fair.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be an event that expands and grows going forward. And hopefully, again, there are more people that will be able to show their wares, their art, and just to come out and experience a fun day with the community.
I'd like to talk a sense of reality. And Damian, you have, of course, have been involved in the community board and everything else. Everything needs funding. And Eric knows this as well. He talked about a grant that they got. How do you pay for this? Are these businesses that put up the money? You mentioned KRVC. I mean, I appreciate that, but they, of course, also have to raise money. Talk to me about, what it takes to put this on.
So, we're a not-for-profit 501c3. This event is fully self-funded through the contribution of our members and local institutions. We also have a lot of vendors who have generously supporting the event. We're charging a minimal fee for tables. And because of that, because of those contributions, we're able to pull this off. It includes Mount St. Vincent, some other larger institutions, the Y, a big partner, a big supporter of ours, Skyview Property Owners Associations, and most importantly, the people in the community who are going to volunteer in the event. And that's really
that's a big thing too.
All the volunteer efforts that's gone in here, all the businesses along Riverdale Avenue in particular that have supported this over the last 3 years. Without the community, without the volunteers, none of this would happen.
Was the Riverdale Main Streets Alliance in existence before the block party, or was it really we got the organization together to create a block party?
It actually started in about 2012 as the North Riverdale Merchants Association.
That's right. Okay.
And it just evolved over time as businesses change. And I think the interest in the community for these type of events grew. And then we needed really community volunteers to get more involved to do the planning. Small businesses really don't have the bandwidth to do that. They need some people to kind of band them together, put forth some good ideas, take their ideas and further them independent of what they do day in and day out.
Right.
They provide a critical service. They're the lifeblood of our community. And in some ways, this is the community volunteers giving back.
Eric, we'll give you the final word. It's my job to ask a question you can't answer. Do you like the idea so much that you're going to say next year we'll be in the block party, or at this point, who knows?
Well, because of this and the idea of the Riverdale Art Fest being sort of a mobile thing, it was great. And Damian, I can't thank you enough for letting us join you, and Gary for the work that you do, both of you for bringing the community together. This is going to be an amazing event. We're so
going to be fun. Yep.
So
all right, we got to run. Listen, Damian Mcshane from the Riverdale Main Streets Alliance, Eric Kollin from I almost said the Riverdale Block Party. That's part of it, but the Riverdale Art Fest. I'm going to be out there. My wife will be out there, obviously. Everybody come on out. Doesn't matter what neighborhood you're in. Just come on out and enjoy. And that is Sunday from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. in North Riverdale. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you around town.
Sunday.
All right. That is the Bronx Buzz for this evening. Thank you to our buddy David Brand over at Gothamist. And you know what we always say, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back next week. Good night.